Hi everyone, welcome to my channel Anicia in Cryptoland. This series aims to introduce those early stage projects with original ideas. Our guest today is Adam from Nusic. Hi Adam, how are you?
Hey, I'm good, thanks. How's it going?
Yeah, everything's fine. Very glad to have you here.
Cool.
Okay,
I'm happy to be here.
thank you. So to start with, could you briefly introduce you and your team?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Adam, and I got into blockchain in 2017, and that was I think when I first heard about blockchains. I was at an Ethereum meetup, and Vitalik was telling us about what was going on in the Ethereum ecosystem, and I immediately realized that this was a great opportunity for music intellectual property. So when I was a student, I was doing music technology, and a lady from from the intellectual property office came in, and she said, if you want to protect your copyright, put your recording on a CD, put it in an envelope and post it to yourself. And the immutable timestamp of the postal service will validate that you've created it. And we could go to court and you could open the envelope and prove that you'd made this piece of work. And even at the time, I thought it was ridiculous. I think Apple were already starting to phase out CD drives back then in 2007. And so when I heard about blockchains, I thought, this is it. This is a great opportunity to replace this kind of archaic intellectual property system with something that really works in a digital context. And so I've been kind of hacking away at various iterations of Nusic since then. I was looking at NFTs in 2018, but really, like, at the time, the music industry hadn't heard of an NFT. They didn't know anything. They didn't really understand blockchains. People were talking about enterprise blockchain, and we kind of went into crypto winter, and it was not like this kind of synthesis of music and crypto and blockchain just wasn't really happening. So it was only when the kind of NFT boom kicked off that I realized that, now is the time. The industry recognizes, they know what an NFT is. It's a $1 billion industry already. And I started teaming up and doing various hackathons. So our team has largely been met through doing hackathons. So we've just come out of the Chainlink Spring Hackathon that we got the NFT and gaming prize for. And we previously, a bunch of us got together just before the hackathon last year, at the end of the year, which we won the grand prize for. And so, yeah, we're distributed. We're all over the world. I'm here in the UK. We've got team members in India, Pakistan, New Zealand, over in the US as well. And yeah, it's great. I think there's a real momentum around Nusic right now. I think it's necessary for the music industry to embrace this technology, and I think everyone on our team would say the same thing.
Well, congratulations for being a winner in Chainlink Hackathon, and great to know you have such an international team. Could you give us a brief introduction about your project?
Yeah, so Nusic is a layer 1 for music. So that means rather than like an alt layer 1 that's just designed to do the same kind of thing that Ethereum does, only faster, it's designed around musical standards. So it's actually designed for music metadata to be loaded on chain, so that this can be secured, and music creators will always be able to validate themselves and validate their creations. So these can be pushed up onto different blockchains as assets, right? So you can create an NFT out of your music files, and the music itself is distributed right now onto IPFS. And what we do is we break down the individual music file. So it's not just a file like an MP3 or a WAV file that is generally like how we consume music media online, but it's actually split up into a binary tree. So that means that we get the music to be annotated based on like the intro, the verse, the chorus, other verses, the breakdown, the bridge. and then we split it up accordingly, so that ultimately there's a data structure behind this music file that goes all the way down to an individual beat, right? So at the atomic level, even an individual beat is a piece of intellectual property that could be protected and made into an asset and offered up on a secondary marketplace. And there are examples, there have been numerous examples in history in music history of loops of music becoming really popular when they get sampled or reproduced for different songs. And basically what Nusic aims to provide is an end-to-end system that protects music from the point of creation to the point of consumption, right? And that's by leveraging the blockchain itself, IPFS as an alternative to a kind of centralized cloud. And then it's all encrypted. And we've got some innovations around permissioned NFTs so that users are able to access specific pieces of music depending on what kind of authority they have to access that. And that's something that can also be implemented on an enterprise level, so potentially for systems like streaming services, but also music production libraries, right? So that artists are able to kind of put their content out there and offer it up to be used in derivative music productions while still getting paid.
Well, so if I understand this correctly, it's like those music we have on chain before, like a whole stuff together. But in your case, in your layer one, the music, they're gonna be on chain, but every single piece of the music, they are separate.
Yeah, exactly. So, like sometimes you see, sometimes you might see stems out in the wild, and a stem would be like just a channel of audio. So you could get a vocal, an instrumental stem, a bass line, and a drum beat. And that's similar to what an artist can load on chain with Nusic. But we're actually aiming to upload the entire multi-channel content. So that could include like the individually isolated drum beat that was just recorded on one specific mic, for example, in the studio, so that we can get the most kind of granular data set possible, all of which is really useful for future applications in music information retrieval, which we see, we're starting to see this in everyday life when you use an app like Shazam to recognize a song. That's an example of music information retrieval, and there's a formidable data set behind that. And then, in content ID systems like on YouTube, where they recognize the specific track that's been used in different contexts. So the actual data, the metadata, also serves as valuable information that amasses basically like an open data set based around musical standards, so that this can be compared and you can actually have some authority to be able to kind of remove like infringing content, for example, in the case where you could be a music creator, somebody just you put your music on Spotify, somebody just rips it off of Spotify, changes the name of the file, uploads it under their own name, and is able to start monetizing that independently with their own marketing. That's really difficult to police as a self-releasing artist. So by having this data set that builds up all of these songs and all the granularity of the music data, we can have much more sophisticated systems to ensure that the music itself is only used when the creator has authorized it to be so.
Okay, well, that is quite revolutionary, like out of my imagination. We currently have many music platforms like Audios, Sounds XYZ. The technology they are currently based on, they are like the blockchain before, right? So you can't really divide it. They are served as a whole package online.
Yeah, so there's loads of really cool music applications that are coming out on chain. I think it's a really exciting time for the market. And we're building Nusic as a layer one for attribution, right, for music metadata. So we anticipate that this, what we're building is also, or it's designed to be composable, and therefore any of these third-party platforms and kind of user-facing applications are able to leverage this attribution layer, this metadata that exists, really to be able to, offer like more powerful use cases for the musicians on their platform, and better experiences to the fans, right? So this isn't just a smart contract layer that we're talking about here. This is actually like the music itself, right? The music metadata, and so therefore we would anticipate that a platform like Audius would be able to leverage Nusic, Sounds XYZ, in the future something like Royal that's pushing out for financing for artists, right? Like all of these are primitives that we can that we've developed that can ultimately be supported on these different platforms as well.
Okay, and how is your current project going?
We've just come out of this hackathon. We've just come out of this Chainlink hackathon, and it turned out that Polkadot is actually running another hackathon. So it was difficult to resist jumping into that, because we already had built this substrate chain that leverages the consensus mechanism from Polkadot essentially as a layer 0. So it's difficult to resist kind of jumping into this hackathon, and we've actually had some really great additions to our team. We've had a couple of people who are really into data, doing stuff with actually kind of in real estate with image recognition, but actually coming from kind of musical backgrounds, as well as like data analysis stuff. So we're actually working on a new basically like a track explorer. So kind of like Etherscan or something like that, but in the context of the track that's on chain, right? So you can explore and you can query each of the different components of the track that's being uploaded. And we're working with a Web3 label who are actually introducing a new artist, and we're collaborating really closely with this native Web3 artist on basically potentially putting the album out on Nusic, or being underpinned by Nusic, and then leveraging some different release platforms. And so that's kind of where we're at the moment, very focused on the hackathon. I've just finished our light paper, which is basically about music as metaverse property. So the idea being that there's only a finite amount of music intellectual property that will ever exist. Although it's expandable, there's only so many melodies and bass lines and drum patterns that will ever be composed. So our thesis, or my thesis on this, is that by setting up music as property in the metaverse, this is actually a more natural fit than trying to kind of enforce artificial scarcity, such as what we see happening right now with these land sales. The metaverse is expanding, and kind of using the analogy of land, which is kind of bound to like a physical domain, like a planet, may not be a suitable fit for the long term for the metaverse. So the idea that music as metaverse property is that's kind of a meme that I've been working on, and we're looking to kind of roll this out. So yeah, as far as the roadmap goes, we're looking at actually doing activations inside the metaverse. So we already produced this music festival metaverse for the last hackathon, doing the track explorer and all of that, and getting the layer 1 to marketplace, as soon as possible. But of course, this is like a massive project. There's all kinds of things that we need to take a look at really closely, and holes that I'm sure are going to be picked in our theses. And one of the things that we're working on now is actually a PFP collection. So this is based on waveforms. So the idea is that a waveform is a visual representation of a music file, and we made these into little avatars that can be your kind of your representation in the metaverse, and your access point into the music ecosystem.
Yeah, I've checked your metaverse video. It looks very interesting. I think I really like the idea because music is an intangible thing, and normally we can only label it by just some words, but instead you can put it like in your image, and even more now it's in metaverse. I think that's
Right.
yeah, really good idea.
Well, yeah, I think that like what is a copyright anyway, right? It's just like it's some piece of paper that maybe even if that it's a piece of paper that says you own this thing that like might be kept in a folder somewhere, right? It's so intangible compared to like the deeds to your house and the infrastructure that exists that actually makes your house a very good asset that's very protectable, and it's very easy to enforce. How do you steal a house? It's very difficult. But with the new generation of Web3 and what's really being built here is an infrastructure that means we can have the same foundations, the same kind of foundations that exist in the physical world in the metaverse. I think that's so exciting, and that's really going to change the whole way that we think about music, and I'm sure all of the other kinds of media in the future. But music's already proven that with new technology, it moves really quickly, and we saw that with Napster and peer-to-peer file sharing. And I expect we're going to see something similar on Web3. Only really, this is going to be enriching all of the musicians that have worked so hard to create this music, and I think everyone can get behind that as a mission. That musicians, we love music, we want to listen to music, but musicians need to get paid properly. Right. And I think that's, we stand with the artists, and really, that's where our passion comes from for this project.
Yeah, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to participate in the metaverse. Before I only can share with someone by just a track, but instead, if you go to a metaverse, you see the people like go right to you when you converse to each other, and you can see which music they have, or all those patterns. Even maybe we can show our music NFT like on the people by the house extra. Yeah, I think it's gonna be really a brand new experience.
Yeah, I mean, and then I think that it's a new asset class, right? Like, I mean, a lot of people, like, especially the younger generation, have just got priced out of real estate, right? Obviously, we've got kind of crypto assets, and that's something, but with music, like there is an intrinsic value, right? Like whatever you think about the distribution mechanism when you just receive a file, that kind of is debatable, the value that an individual MP3 actually has, as it's basically freely accessible like water. But actually, like what's behind that and the intellectual property inside it, that has massive value, and clearly is really influential on influencing people all over the world. There's a reason that the music industry is still growing, and growing at a formidable rate in 2022. And that's only going to continue. And as we open up this new asset class for a generation, I think that we're gonna enter into like a really exciting period for creativity.
Yeah, and also could you tell us more about the bonds you mentioned in your project?
Yeah, so for the financing side, like actually we kind of came into this project, we were working on this NFT music bonds, which is basically like actually offering advances for musicians. Initially the idea was it was on streaming income, right? So like, say you only make like a few $1,000s a year on streaming, but if you bundle that up over the next couple of years, you could say, you could be receiving like $50,000 all at once, and do a crowdfunding event or offer it up to accredited investors. And so what we've done is we actually won the grand prize at the Chainlink Hackathon for this implementation. But what we found is there was some pushback from the industry, specifically like the crypto industry, kind of saw that this isn't a utility, right? It's a security. So it means it passes the Howey test, which is a lot of crypto projects don't want to pass the Howey test, right? Because it's like, you have to deal with the SEC, and there's a lot of legal rigmarole that isn't, not really why we wanted to start building in the first place. So we were kind of blocked a bit by that. But then when we did a bit of research and we found out about this security token standard, so a permissioned fungible token, which is a bit of a compromise as far as, some of the components. But what it means, like there are some things like being able to freeze the asset and, arrange a forced transfer and things like that. It's not necessarily what everybody in crypto wants, but for a mainstream audience and people that, aren't necessarily going to be getting really involved in self-custody and all those kinds of things, it's a safer kind of asset, right? And it hits the kind of legal requirements so that it can be either registered as a security with the SEC, or it can qualify as a security under various exemptions. And that is, so that's actually in this last hackathon, we introduced this, ERC 3643N, and that's the NFT standard of a permissioned token, right? So what we're aiming to do with our bonds is to utilize this permissioned token standard so we can issue bonds, but not just on the streaming revenue and the streaming income, but also on the kind of new wave or the new wave revenue that comes in through NFT drops, through metaverse activations, through all of this these new revenue streams that are emerging through this kind of stage that we're in for the metaverse.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the best way to fundraising from the part of artists, and also the best way to connect them to the community, right? Like the community who really support them from the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I was very annoyed, in Q1 that I felt that we had this great kind of concept and really amazing team that had built this stuff, the NFT bonds, and really felt a lot of friction from the industry, from I guess some crypto investors just feeling like they just want to see other utilities, right? There wasn't so much of a desire to see this kind of synergize with the regulatory framework that was still frankly quite unclear. But then when we did enough digging, at the end of the day, the rules are just written down somewhere, even though sometimes the enforcement seems kind of arbitrary. Actually, you just need to consult with a decent lawyer, figure out what technology can enable this, and actually it's not quite as mystical as it is kind of made out to be sometimes on the surface in crypto. And I think that it's one of those things that actually maybe there's many people that won't want to be participating in this kind of fundraise just because it kind of challenges some of the ideas about self-custody to some extent. But for a bigger audience, that's really, and for accredited investors and all this kind of thing, some of the functions that we've written into the new NFT contracts, they're just necessary for accredited investors to even get involved at all, right? And they're necessary for us to get a crowdfunding exemption to be able to offer it and things like that. So it's it's really an interesting space, and we've been pushing really hard to make sure that it can actually be safe for a kind of mainstream audience, as well as being ultimately beneficial for the artists, right? Which is what it's all about.
Yeah, that's really good. So last question, I saw you launched your own DAO to allow more people to participate in this project. Could you tell us more about it?
Yeah, so Nusic DAO is set up to enable the community to get on board with Nusic, and we've also got a number of systems that we're setting up so that we can actually kind of offer up some monetization opportunities for DAO members. So not necessarily as an investment, but kind of different from what I was talking about with the security NFT there, but some kind of utility that can help to basically grow the Nusic DAO community and the audience, and some kind of incentivization around referrals and all of that side of things. So we're actually getting ready to do this PFP community raise and we're designing a bunch of cool avatars that are based on waveforms, right? So a waveform is like the underlying like kind of visualization of a music file, right? And then we made them into these little dudes. So we've got like a DJ, and we've got a rocker, and there's like a country music guy, a pop diva, you know, and I think there's a hip hop guy, and that's going to be like an algorithmic PFP collection. So you can have this waveform as your avatar, and you can participate in the next generation of Nusic, right? And so that's kind of coming together now. We're looking at a rollout over the next couple of months. And yeah, so I'd suggest that you join in our Discord and basically, you know, get involved on the ground floor. I think there's, you know, we're really like almost, despite our kind of success with these hackathons, like I think we're pretty, it's still pretty incredibly early for Nusic, and there's still like, you know, a lot of opportunity to be kind of collaborating directly with the core team and participating in the DAO.
Okay, that is great to know, and I really can't wait to get my own avatar. Well, I think that's all for today. Thank you very much, Adam, for your introduction about the music Layer 1. And for the audience who would like to join Nusic DAO and get your own avatar, I will put all the links in the description.
Awesome. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, so basically that's all. Thanks again. I will catch you up later. Ciao, ciao.
Okay, bye-bye. Good to see you.